If you missed Bill Belichick on Pat McAfee's draft broadcast, you missed out on some really good stories. One of the best ones he told was about the trade for Randy Moss back in 2007 when they just absolutely eviscerated the entire league offensively. And it was a trade that some people were skeptical of. I'm going to draw some connections to the Stefon Diggs trade, but obviously there is no Randy Moss. Stefon Diggs is not Randy Moss, but there's some parallels. I played for Tom Coughlin, who's in that Parcells tree, and they've taken on guys that don't necessarily fit the Patriots way or the Tom Coughlin style to great success. And at the time, Randy Moss was in that category of people being skeptical about whether he would fit the Patriots way. I added some Randy Moss highlights on here just to remind some of you of how incredible he was that season, but also for the youth to understand just how crazy. This wasn't just some Monday Night Football shtick getting mossed. He was insane. Here's Bill Belichick describing the trade for Randy Moss.
After the draft, the first day of the draft, because we've been trying to trade for Randy Moss for 2 months, literally. This was like childbirth. I mean, it took forever. And so after the first day of the draft, I talked to Mr. Davis. I said, well, are we going to make this deal or not? And he said, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it for your fourth. And I think we were picking like 7th in the 4th round. And so I said, well, we got to get the guy for a physical. We can't take his contract. We're going to have to renegotiate his contract. And Mr. Davis said, well, that's your problem. If you want to trade for him, then all right, trade. Then you get it done. I said, all right. So I said, okay, hung up the phone. This is like 11:30 at night, right after the first day of the draft. I call up Randy, said, hey, Randy, this is Coach Belichick. Boom. Hangs up the phone.
What? Why?
I thought you were full of shit.
I'm like, let me try this again. Randy, it's Coach Belichick. Who is this? Who's pranking me? Who is this? Bam. Hangs up the phone. Randy, this is Coach Belichick. We traded for you. What? Is this a joke? This better not be a joke. Who is this? No. This is all right. Really? I said, yeah, but look, we got to get this done by tomorrow at noon. He goes, all right, what do I need to do? I said, you need to come up, take a physical, and we need to renegotiate your contract. It was by noon? I said, yeah. He goes, well, I'm in Houston now, but I got a plane. I'll be there.
Nice.
Oh, man. So he flies, and he's there at 8 o'clock in the morning, comes in and takes the physical, you know, the old.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Make sure
okay, you're good.
Oh.
We renegotiate the contract, and we're done at 10 o'clock. And first thing he says to me is, where's the playbook?
Oh, that's awesome.
I said, well, right here. I mean, you know, we got it. Let's go. He said, okay, because when I walk out there with the first team with Brady, I got to know all the plays. I can't go out there and make mental errors and screw up. I got to know his offense. And he was smart, man. This guy was smart. And so I sat down. I watched a lot of film with him. I said, Randy, like, we never had a guy like you, you know. And he said, I go, you know, like on this post safety coverage, this is awesome. He's like, on this post safety coverage, what are you going to do? He goes, Coach, you ain't going to see any post safety coverage against me. Like, oh,
he's right.
He goes, you're going to see cover 2. We hadn't seen cover 2 in years, right? He's like, you're going to see cover 2. And he was right. And then he would say, well, here's how I'd run this route. Here's how I'd run that route. And I started thinking, like, well, we got to start giving Randy some routes that, like, if we're running this and they play cover 2, how we can move them into the slot. He's like, move me into the slot. I said, yes, you can get in the middle and cover 2. He's like, all right, good. 25 touchdowns.
Dog.
25 touchdowns.
And so many.
Yeah, opens up the running game, too.
Still got the record.
Unbelievable
but I'm telling you, it was
great teammate.
Randy, come on, man. Randy, I'm trying to.
We got time.
And this video is brought to you by Zadok Jewelers. The Zadok family have been jewelers for 7 generations. This time of year, if you're thinking about getting something really special for a young graduate in your life, think about something that could become a family heirloom, like a fine IWC watch, like the one I got from Zadok. They know a thing or two. In 7 generations, they've picked up a thing or two about jewelry. They've got master watchmakers on staff. It's very old world. Check it out on Zadok.com. If you're in Houston, go to 1801 Post Oak. tell them I sent you, they'll probably be even cooler than they already are. So I think the really cool thing about that is that it's an exaggerated version of what would happen throughout the entire Belichick and Brady regime, which is that there was no scheme. It was like year to year, they were going to figure out what fit their talent the best and how it was going to work the best. When it comes to, okay, Bill Belichick bringing in a guy like Randy Moss, for one, a lot of people very much underestimated or didn't realize how smart he was and how that was able to open up a lot of things for Tom Brady and for that offense. But also that whatever hiccups there were off the field, remember he had a traffic incident here and he had some issues there. Like, first and foremost, he cared about football. And all the stories about Stefon Diggs are that no matter what his disagreements were or blow-ups were with Josh Allen, that he was a fierce competitor in practice, or is a fierce competitor in practice, and very much cares about the football. When I played for Tom Coughlin, one year he drafted a guy, R.J. Soward, in the first round. RJ was a really unique kid. He was a good kid in a lot of ways, but he also had quit football at USC at one point because he wanted to pursue a hip hop career. At one point, Tom Coughlin had to hire a car to pick him up to get him to the facility on time. But Coughlin, who's in this Parcells tree and very much in the same mold as Bill Belichick in a lot of ways, knew that getting talented football players on the team isn't always so easy, and they can't always be the picture-perfect example. What you hope is that the rest of the locker room and the culture is strong enough that you can absorb colorful personalities, and it's not that big a deal. Nick Caserio told Sean Pendergast and myself on our show his version of the story, and you got to remember, he was a first-year wide receivers coach at the time.
Whatever night that was, so we had to get Randy into town. So once he stopped hanging up on Coach Belichick, he was actually able to get on the plane. So I think he landed first thing in the morning. So at the time, so Josh was the coordinator. That was going to be my first year as a receivers coach. So here I am, right, like a dumb receivers coach who doesn't know anything about anything. We just traded for Randy Moss. So that room has Moss. We traded for Welker in the offseason. We signed Kelly Washington. We had Jabbar Gaffney. Troy Brown was still around. So, I mean, that Dante Stallworth, we signed him in free agency. So here I am, like, that's the group that because this is before we have Moss. So we trade for Moss. So then Josh comes to me and says, hey, can I borrow your car? I got to go pick up Moss at the airport. I'm like, well, where's your car? So he goes down to Logan Airport. This is early in the morning, probably Saturday morning, whatever. It's him and Moss in the car. So come to find out, in one of the tunnels, I think they almost had a car wreck. So here's Josh with my car with Moss, who we just traded for, who hung up on a head coach multiple times, almost getting a car accident. So finally he makes his way back to the stadium. So Randy goes through his physical. So that day, we're in the offensive staff room, basically start drawing up routes that we think are going to be conducive to what Randy can do. Now, routes, mind you, that we didn't have in the offense. So we're sort of creating routes that we think Randy's going to be able to run that other people can't run. So I think the thing that people lose about Moss is just one of the smartest, and I've said this publicly multiple times, one of the smartest football players you'll ever be around. So very perceptive, very good understanding of concepts, very good understanding of the space. So that whole thing came together fairly quickly. And then we did the trade. We consummated the trade. And then this is where, as coaches, you have to figure out, what do your players do well? Forget about the system. There's no such thing as a system. What are some of the things that player does well? Can you incorporate maybe some different concepts? And there was a number of concepts that we hadn't used previously that we ran in games, and we scored multiple touchdowns as a result. But you're talking about Randy was a great player with a great mind, and he was playing for a great head coach and a good offense with a great quarterback. So, Randy had his productive of the year. It certainly wasn't because of my coaching, that's for damn sure. But, we were, it was exciting to be a part of that. To be a part of that situation.
Nick, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, by the way, I like watching these end zone fades, because as much as the analytics folks don't like the end zone fade, it's kind of like not liking the mid-range jumper. But if you got Dirk Nowitzki, you do it. You shoot some mid-range jumpers. And that's what Randy Moss was. As I know people are always making that comparison, Randy Moss and Dirk Nowitzki. But to make another basketball comparison and a serious one, it's, Daryl Morey, his theory has always been, look, get as many good basketball players on the team as possible. The scheme will take care of itself as long as you got smart coaches who can adapt to what their strengths are. And, as it is with Belichick and Caserio, focus more on what guys can do and don't worry as much about what they can't do. So not making a comparison of Stefon Diggs to Randy Moss at all, but I do think there are some similarities in that whatever your objections might be, some of them are just like, they're knee-jerk. You have that knee-jerk reaction of like, this guy's a bad locker room guy. The fact of the matter is not all locker rooms are the same. Not all quarterbacks are the same. And it really is all about getting a mixture of people together. Some work together great. Some don't work together great. Stefon Diggs worked great with Josh Allen for 2.5 years until it all started to fall apart. And I'm very optimistic about them integrating him into whatever version of this offense and whatever version of CJ Stroud they become.